When we talk about brain overload during periods of turbulence, I really want us to remember what that means in our everyday lives. First of all, when we talk about turbulence, we are referring to our own states. For example, when I open my email and realize that someone has asked me about something in a folder or in another messenger, I go into that other messenger and start searching there. In other words, we constantly have an attention deficit. That's the first thing. What's happening, I call it overheating of the prefrontal cortex. In other words, we constantly pull ourselves out of one task and get distracted by a new one. This is facilitated by the information background that comes to us in the form of messengers, reels, social networks, email, and all those people who reach out to us. Plus, there's the newsfeed. Every day we hear about economic reports, political issues, and various things related to changes in the external environment. As a rule, they rarely have a positive character. Most often they cause anxiety, and this brings a different kind of confusion. And from the brain's perspective, we can look at, I've already told you, there is a paired organ located deep in the temporal region, the so-called amygdala. And this area of the brain is responsible for various primary reactions. You've probably heard of them: fight, flight, freeze, or submit. What should we do in this situation when our cortex is overheated and the subcortical structures start sending impulses that prevent us from focusing and making good, well thought out decisions? I offer two simple neuro tools for this. The first is the neuro-pause. In fact, it's a simple tool, but quite ingenious. If we pull ourselves out of the grip of this endless turbulence, this centrifuge, we gain an outside perspective. And as they say, we calm down. We can pause, say stop to ourselves and those around us, and answer questions from a state of calm. So, what kind of pauses are these? How many should there be? And how long should they last? First, the shortest pauses are 90 seconds long. Science shows that even pauses of 90 seconds or anywhere from 60 to 180 seconds help a person break free from the grip of this turbulence and the endless race for and because of information. During this time, we can breathe. You can use box breathing or the 478 breathing technique, which is very helpful. We can do the same thing. This is what I suggest to my clients as a neurobiological executive coach. I tell them that you can go to the window and look outside. Why is this important? We get used to, like, I'm in my office now and this is my environment. My brain is used to this environment. When I go to the window and look outside, even for a minute and a half, it leads to me seeing a completely different picture. It's not exactly, well, let's say it's not unusual, it's just different. And my brain starts to activate its attention. That's on one hand. On the other hand, it gets a bit of a break from all these letters, numbers, and the endless noise of social media. One more thing. My dog is barking here. I don't know if you can hear it. One more thing. When we start talking about turbulence, we can't forget about another simple and perfect tool. I mentioned that the prefrontal cortex, the frontal cortex, which we use to make decisions, plan, and act, gets overheated. And impulses from the subcortical structures start to wake up, which leads us to feel anxious. What should we do in this situation? It would be good to even out that temperature, right? To make it normal. Sometimes the opposite happens. Think about it. After lunch, we sometimes feel sluggish. No matter what someone tells us, it seems like we only understand what the person is trying to say on the second or third try. It's as if the temperature of the prefrontal cortex has dropped. We also need to bring it back to normal. How can we do that? I'm talking about how it would be good to have some clear neuro tool, one that has a beginning and an end. That is, there is this definition of done, and there is a clear structure, what I am doing and what will be finished. That's exactly why we love tidying up the garden bed so much. If you happen to have a private house and you have a lawn or a garden bed or something like that, that's exactly why we like, well, tidying up at home. If you ever find yourself, like, I'm someone who doesn't like cleaning at home. I've never liked it. But lately, I've started to notice that I actually enjoy it. Why? Because the amount of dopamine increases. I feel good about myself because the task is done. It's simple and clear. Stack 3 or 5 books, tidy up the desk, take the coffee cup to the kitchen and put it in the sink. It's not difficult, but on the other hand, these are the actions that help our mind to even out its temperature. So if you suddenly find yourself struggling, you can use these simple tools. In fact, they're far from the only ones. I write and talk about this a lot, including in my book. I hope it will be published in English soon as well. Right now, it's published only in my native language, but unfortunately, my publisher and I are discussing this, and we'll see how our conversation ends. If we can't get it translated into English right now, I'll be able to do it a little later once our contract ends. But at the same time, I also write about this in my blog. So please send in your cases and ask your questions. I read them, look them over, respond, and will provide value to everyone who reaches out. Thank you very much for your interest in neurobiology in our lives. And remember, everything we talk about regarding the brain is much more complex in real neuroscience. But I tried to explain it in simple terms so it's clear how to use it on an ordinary Tuesday. Wishing everyone success.